Hi everyone! Welcome to my podcast. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Andrew, a college student.
Hello everyone!
And today we'll be talking about pollution, but not just any pollution, transboundary pollution. So Andrew, do you know what transboundary pollution is, or can give me an idea of what you think it is?
I've never heard of transboundary pollution, but I have heard of pollution. But if I were to define it, I would think of it as in like a pollution that is not bounded and it can travel to different areas.
Okay, that's basically it. So transboundary pollution is a type of pollution that originates in one country, but it's able to cause a lot of damage in another country's environment because it crosses borders through pathways like water or air. And this type of pollution can be transported across hundreds and even thousands of kilometers. The distances that pollution can spread mean it's not only contained within the boundaries of any single nation, it's spread throughout the nations surrounding it, which is why it's called transboundary pollution. One of the biggest problems with transboundary pollution is that it can carry pollution away from a heavy emitter, meaning a country that has a significant amount of it, and deposit it onto a nation whose emissions are relatively low. Can you think of any countries with a high amount of pollution?
On top of my mind, China is the first one.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So today I will be addressing South Korea's pollution, and the amount of air pollution that South Koreans encounter on a seasonal basis is really, really extreme. However, they didn't always suffer from this heavy amount of pollution. Now, at times, the country is ranked among the most polluted places in the world. There are two debates going on about the source of this pollution. Some attribute it to the pollution that blows in from China, while others attribute it to Korea's use of coal for energy. Others recognize it as a combination of both sources. What do you think, Andrew? Do you think it's coming from China? Do you think it's because of Korea's use of coal for energy? Or do you think it's a combination of both sources?
I feel like both sources contribute to this issue.
Why is that?
Just because I think both are huge factors.
Okay, that's a viable reason. However, there's a lack of research addressing how media coverage contributes to this public understanding about the air pollution issue. The media perceives it as it's merely coming from China and nobody else. And they usually connect China only to this air pollution. However, they never address the other side of it, which is Korea's own problem, that the energy or coal that they're burning is causing the high emissions of pollution themselves. For example, we visited a place called POSCO, and it's a steel manufacturing center when I was in South Korea. And they were talking about how they're trying to change the way their steel is manufactured and trying to eliminate bad pollution that can go into their environment. They're looking for ways to produce clean pollution, and I think that's really smart because they probably realize that pollution is really, really heavy, and it's not only China's fault, but it's also their fault, so they should find ways to stop it. Unfortunately, this heavy amount of air pollution is a major problem. Data drawn from the Asian Regional Emission Inventory indicate that premature mortality from related air pollution problems for all over East Asia, not just Korea, but all over, will range from 450,000 to over 1 million cases in 2020, depending on policy scenarios. You can see how much impact air pollution itself makes on the public population, and because of that, it causes big effects such as death. And I will be going into that more specifically in the website on other tabs. And then I also wanted to say that from my personal experience walking around Korea, I could literally see the smog in the air. You would walk around and everything would be completely fuzzy. It's just you thought it would be fog from the cold air or whatever, but it's actually because of the heavy air pollution that they're facing. when I was in my hotel room, I opened my window and you could just see a huge ball of smoke just come in, and then you're like, oh shoot, that's a lot. And then it's just heavily impacting them, and I feel really bad because they shouldn't be suffering from this high amount of air pollution. I mean, you walk around and so many people are wearing those masks that covers their nose or their mouths because they want to protect themselves from the harmful health effects of this. So as you can see, transboundary pollution is a heavy and big problem that action should be and must be taken, or else the public population and even the environment and animals will be affected heavily. And it's not only Korea's fault or China's fault as they're perceiving it. Korea also must take action working together with other East Asian countries or Asian countries in general, because their neighboring countries could also be affected by this problem. So I hope this podcast just gives you a little insight on transboundary pollution and what it is. So it would introduce you to what I'll be talking about in my website, which would be the harmful effects it has, as well as action that can be taken to help reduce it. Thank you for listening.